started on our project in this side yard over here. What we're going to be doing today is essentially regrading this to keep water away from the house, and then we're going to be putting a French drain in kind of down the middle right through here. Rented a mini excavator for this weekend to get this project done and a couple other projects. First thing we'll do is go ahead and strip off the sod and the topsoil. There's some brick along here. This whole driveway at one point was a gravel driveway, and they had a brick border, and they just poured it directly on top of the existing gravel driveway. And so this edge is unsupported. As part of kind of regrading this side anyways, we're going to go ahead and dig out a little bit underneath there, pack some wash stone underneath to support that, and then we'll bring the grade line up to flush with the top of the driveway, which will then, lock that stone in place and keep the edge of the driveway supported. This water line right here is pretty shallow. I think the best solution for this is going to be to, we'll start the French drain right about here and run it along, and then this will actually be a little bit higher grade over the water line, and then we'll slope back down this direction, and we'll put a catch basin back right out here, and then slope all of this from where the water line is, and all this whole area will slope down to this catch basin. So we'll have a little bit of a low point here with the catch basin, and that pipe will run and tie into the end of the French drain. I'm going to start right here. This is where the French drain is going to start, and so I'm just going to start by getting this at our finished grade. Above the French drain is going to be flat all the way through here because we don't have any fall, and that's the whole reason why we're doing this French drain. But the French drain underground is going to slope downhill, but the surface level is going to be pretty much flat. I don't know what it is about this spot. I guess it's just on a hill or something, but this thing has run out of power. It's happened a couple times. I think I'm sitting on too steep of an angle. Back to
So the issue that I was running into with this machine, which I originally thought was a clogged fuel filter, was actually water in the fuel. Ultimately, what was happening is when the machine was parked this way, the pickup on the fuel tank was on the downhill side, and so there's some condensation or water that had gotten into the fuel tank, and so that was getting sucked up and not fuel. What I did here was I had to drain the fuel water separator probably a dozen times. I just would hold it up there, turn the key on, let the electric fuel pump fill it up, and then dump it, and keep repeating that process. I didn't have a good way to get at, I don't even know if there is a drain on this fuel tank, but I couldn't find it, or I couldn't get to it. It's pretty buried under this machine. So this was the best thing I could come up with to get this thing up and running. Obviously, this is not an ideal scenario. Ideally, I would be able to drain all the water out of the tank so that none of that is making it to the injection pump. It's not good for the injection pump to run water through the injection pump. Injection pump is lubricated by the fuel that's running through it, and so if the fuel is water, it's not going to be getting lubricated. But this way I was at least able to drain out most of the water and keep it out of the injection pump. After I drained it out to where I was getting some fuel, then I let it run for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. There's a little sputtering at first, as there's always some air in the system once you open the fuel system, and then there's probably about another 5 minutes or so of that spitting and sputtering here, trying to get the rest of the water out of the system. Now it's running pretty well. I let it idle for another 10 minutes or so, and then got back to work. I think I'm going to grab the trailer and load the dirt onto the trailer.
start of the French drain there, we are 2 feet underneath the level of the finished soil against the house. That gives us 6 inches of fall from the house back to the top of the drain, and then 3 to 4 inches of soil, a foot of gravel, and then there'll be an inch or two of gravel underneath the pipe to level everything up. So that's our 2 feet, and then we've got a slope of 1/4 inch in a foot, which is 5 inches in the 20 feet there. So the laser is set on a downhill slope. I'm going to clean out the bottom of this trench with a shovel and put our fabric down, and then put a little bit of stone in the bottom. And I'm going to then adjust this down about 1.5 inches, and then we'll set the stone at that height, and that'll be the bottom of the pipe.
I don't think he was listening.
All right, so I was able to get that chiseled out underneath the water line. Got that pipe in there. Next step is I'm going to go ahead and backfill on this side. We'll deal with all the other side of the water line later on. We're just going to worry about this right here. I'm just going to backfill this by hand, pack it around that pipe, and kind of give us just enough to really hold that pipe in place. And then we'll start getting the fabric in for this section, and then we got to pull this perforated pipe out and put a sock on it, and then we'll put a little bit of gravel. Got the fabric in the trench, and I'm just starting to get the stone in. This fabric was too narrow. The goal is to have around the whole French drain, which is the pipe and the stone, wrapped in fabric, which it's long enough to do that. The problem is you need to pin it up on the edge so it doesn't fall in, and it's too narrow. And so we ended up just running 2 passes, overlapped at the bottom of the trench, and then goes up, and then now it's folded out, and we'll fold those over on top of each other once the stone's all in place. I'm gonna work on getting this first bit of stone leveled out to the grade of the bottom of the pipe, and then we will get the pipe with the sock and put that in the trench, and then we'll start backfilling with stone.
I apologize for some of the audio issues that we've had throughout this video. Unfortunately, between background noise, some cases me being too far away from the microphone, a few cases where our little supervisor had to have his own side conversation, but I'm going to try and fill in the gaps the best I can here. The reason we're putting this French drain in the first place is because the grade is pretty much flat all the way along the side of this house. There's not enough fall for the water to exit from this area. Originally, there was a catch basin up at the front corner of the house that downspout did outlet into, but when we dug it out, it was completely covered in soil, leaves, all kinds of stuff, and it had been inoperable for years. Because of that, all the water was being forced to exit this area through the foundation drains, and it was just overloading the foundation drain. So that was kind of the root cause and the reason for this project. Basically, we had 2 options. We could put in a French drain, or we could put in a series of catch basins. The width of the yard between the driveway and the house is only about 15 feet, so trying to have everything all slope to one central point and have one catch basin there wasn't really feasible. And doing multiple catch basins would just create a big wavy up and down yard. So we decided the French drain was the best solution. As you saw, we did run into that water line issue. Originally, we were planning to run the French drain all the way back to the corner under the bay window, but we decided to change course of plans and start the French drain here and add a catch basin underneath that bay window, because otherwise the water line would be too shallow. We did ultimately, as you'll see in the next video, decide to go ahead and put one catch basin at the end of the French drain as well. A French drain is essentially a perforated pipe, which is a pipe that has holes in it with washed stone filled around it. Washed stone has all the fines washed out of it, and water will easily flow through it. We put the perforated pipe at the bottom of the trench, fill with washed stone, and then we cover the French drain with just a few inches of topsoil. The water can percolate down through the topsoil, then filter down through the stone, and then will go into that pipe at the bottom of the drain. There's a couple of options when it comes to perforated pipe. You can either use a corrugated perforated pipe, or you can use this smooth wall perforated pipe that I'm using. There's a couple of reasons why I chose to use this smooth wall perforated pipe. One is it does allow a little bit more water flow through the smooth wall than the corrugated does. It's a little bit sturdier. This pipe is still a very thin wall, so it's not incredibly sturdy, but it is a little bit sturdier than the corrugated pipe. And also, honestly, for this project, I could only get the corrugated perforated pipe in a 100-foot roll, and I only needed 20 feet of it, so it was cheaper to get two 10-foot sticks of this. So that played into the decision as well.
Right now our laser's set on a slope, going downhill towards that end. And that's because we want the pipe to run downhill so the water flows appropriately. The surface of the soil against the house is level. And so we're just going to have this swale like this, and it's going to be level going this way on the surface. I need to reset the laser to be level now. We want the top of the stone to be 3 inches below the surface of the ground. So it'll be 6 inches of fall from the house to the drain. And then we want to set the stone 3 inches below that. A little low here. A little high. Very close right through here, just need to rake it out level.
So we got this stone all raked out level, and then we moved on to trenching for the output pipe. As I mentioned earlier, we ended up finding the catch basin that was at the corner of the house. Then we moved on to trying to locate the outlet pipe that was already in the ground for that catch basin.
There is a catch basin right here. That runs into this 6-inch right here. We ran water down it. Water does run clear all the way to the end. We found the end.
Since we determined that water would flow through it, we decided to go ahead and use that pipe rather than installing a new pipe as we had originally planned. Because we found that after we had all this French drain installed, we had to meet the end of the French drain with the inlet of that pipe. Fortunately, we were able to find that at a low enough point to where we have just a little bit of fall from the end of the French drain to where we intersect with that pipe. It's only about 1 inch of fall in 15 feet, which is less than what we were maybe going for. And had we known about that from the beginning, I probably would have just set the French drain a couple inches higher, but it will work just fine. Unfortunately, we ran out of time this weekend to get this all wrapped up. We ran into a few issues, water in the fuel, as well as it started raining at the end of the day here earlier than what was expected. And we ended up in a not so good scenario where we weren't able to get our trench backfilled before the rain came. We got about 3 or 4 inches of rain spread over the next 3 days. So we did end up having to rent another mini excavator the following weekend. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you on next week's video where we get this project wrapped up.